Wholeness, welcome. This is Josh, Inner Skilled, and today I have Birgitta Visser with me. Birgitta, what's going on today?
Well, I'm in sunny Spain. You're in rainy Denmark.
Pretty much, that's how it's going. Uh, so, who is Birgitta, if I may call you that, and
Yes.
what kind of work does she do?
Well, in this human lifetime, I always, it's funny. It's really funny. People ask me that question. I always say, well, we're everything and nothing at the same time. So I'm the same, right? We're all the same like that. But in this human life, gosh, I was born in 1974, so I'm a 70s kid. I did so many different jobs. I'm just a bit of a chameleon. I've traveled the world more times than my age, and gosh, I'm 50 now, and I haven't. I'll still travel. I'll still want to see a lot of the world, because that's what I am. I'm like a nomad and a seeker, but I have one foot in the corporate world still in oil and gas. I know oil and gas, and then the other foot in the spiritual world because I write. I'm an author. I've got another collaboration book coming out in September, and then my second solo book about India and meditation and the Art of Living Center in October, towards the end of October. That one I'm super excited about. So yeah, and I studied so many healing modalities. But right now I'm a light language healer and um, what I call a soul empowerment coach, and I channel. That's what I do. So I'm very controversial. Yeah, yeah.
Well, very cool. We'll get into some of that. I also have friends of ours, fiance and I, we have a couple friend. They got out of the oil and gas industry. They're both well, one of them was in the engineering side, and I forget what
Yep.
she had did. But yeah, they actually benefited a lot and didn't think it was too bad. But they're doing something else now, and
Good.
yeah.
Good for them.
So yeah. Um, well, let's. What I'm actually particularly interested in that I saw on your bio is trauma,
Yeah.
because there's so much trauma healing that needs to be done in this world. And
Yes.
the other thing, of course, is past life recall, which
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not at a point in my practice now where I have active past life recalls, and I've never done a regression. So those are two things I'm interested in too. But yeah, so I don't know. Where do you want to start here? Is there any particular, did you want to just jump into your upcoming book, or did you want to talk about the two topics I mentioned? All the stuff
Talk
I'm
about
interested in that as
so
well. And yeah, I don't know where to start here. And then light language
so
is fascinating as well.
yeah. So trauma. And this is a very interesting one, trauma. I mean, we all go through trauma, right? We all have our experiences. But I have learned that an experience is neither good or bad. It's just an experience. It's just how we feel. It's just how we feel in the moment. So our emotions, as you know, our energy emotion, right? They zigzag through our whole body, through our whole meridian system. And I mean, I've been through something recently that was very, very traumatic, if you'd like to call it. Um, but I bounced back pretty quickly because I understood the experience. And often what happens with trauma, whatever we go through, we remain and we keep thinking about it. We keep thinking about it. And it's all about understanding the experience and just being in acceptance of it in that moment in time and working your way through the trauma, embracing it and just working your way through it. It's not like, we have a fairy godmother and boom, you feel better. You really have to work through it. You have to walk through the darkness. And especially now, and there's one thing, Josh, that people don't really talk about. It's the earth. So when we suffer from trauma, what happens? It bleeds into the environment, not just our outer environment, but it bleeds into Mother Earth. That doesn't mean she cannot recycle the pain because she does, but people don't realize it seeps into the earth. Yeah, and that's what we call collective trauma, right? Because so many people in the world suffer from pain. and they live in that fear and that anxiety or all these labels. And it's that somebody pointed it out to me, and I said, that makes total sense. But if we shift our consciousness, and we release these, these trauma-based fears, these experiences, then it's, the earth feels that too. And I don't think people really talk about that.
Those are the things that are way more subtle, and the unseen is a little bit. Not everybody's tapped into that, right? People can go to battlefields and pick up right away of the collective
Yes.
trauma and the trauma embedded in the land there too. And then there are certain people that work with that energetically and clearing and healing the land. But
Yeah.
some people, I mean, who knows? They might actually, if they start messing around with things they don't understand, then they can draw other things to them that they're not equipped to handle either. So it's not something to be taken lightly. And I just want to mention here, I feel that, yeah, good or bad, that those classifications aren't always helpful. What I find more helpful is harm, right? Because we know what's harmful and what's not. And we know that once we heal through things, we can not remember to keep dwelling on it and re-traumatizing, but enough to know that we'll use that past experience to inform our future choices, right? And to know that if we're in like an abusive situation, we should do whatever we can to get out of that and stuff. Now, healing trauma is a whole nother thing that I don't really feel that I'm enough equipped to teach others about. I'm definitely exploring and learning about things like this now. So yeah, like you said, if we have a human incarnation, we're going to experience some kind of pain. There's just really no way out of that. But the psychological pain and suffering that we sometimes add to it, that can be addressed and healed in a lot of cases, I feel. Yeah.
That's why there is so much talk in the world about mental health. And mental health is all about everything's in the mind. Everything stems from the mind, because we archive all our experiences, good or bad, in our minds. And that's why I call them the archives. And what we don't heal, what we don't heal and what we don't feel, that trigger remains up there. So it's really important that you feel your emotions, and it's okay to be vulnerable. It really is. That's why the saying, crying is good for the soul. And I think we are so defined by society and what the norm is, and how we should live, and how we should be, how we should act, what we should eat, how we should stay in shape. But look at the 1970s. Life was completely different then, and the 1980s as well. And now it's like, it's so different. I mean, people are so consumed within themselves. Everything is about social media. How do we become perfect? And it's not about that. Who gives a monkeys what people think about you, right? It's so important what you think about yourself and how you feel about yourself. But people look outward rather than inward. And inward is where you find these little pearls of wisdom, these little golden nuggets. But if you keep living outwardly, you're not going to find that. You're going to live on the surface of yourself. And that's the thing. Everything is done by design, Josh. You know this, right? Everything's done by design. Live outwardly, do this and do that. You have to, and it's all about being lived and actually not living your life. And I know this because I'm in the corporate world, and I can see it. And I will leave the corporate world. I need it for a little bit longer, but it doesn't agree with my spirit anymore. But I will sit pretty until it's my time to move. But it's all about finding our passion. And it doesn't matter if that's taking care of a family. That is a passion. That is something noble. Yeah, it's society that says, oh, you should have a college degree, you should have a university degree, right? And then what happens? Oh, you pay your debts till the end of your life. And what is that? And I always say about Earth, it's like an insane asylum. We incarnate here, and it's the only planet where you have to pay to live, because that's the way It's been designed. And we were not designed to live this way. We are love. That's our divine essence. That is who we are. And as recently as yesterday, I was talking to somebody, and some things just hit me. Which I do know, but I work a lot with the Ascended Master Saint Germain. He says, your sacred geometry, your frequency, fine tune yourself. And that's the same with healing. It's the
Yeah.
same. It's like whatever we go through, whatever trauma we go through, it's like a mathematical equation.
Yeah, this notion of the amount of programming people are under is pretty crazy. You know,
Yep.
the amount of conditioning that we've undergone since childhood. You know, and
Yep.
so this is things we've learned. We just have to unlearn a lot of it. I feel, you know, and I think one guiding post is this beneficial for me and for others, and especially in the long term too. And if we look at it critically too, we'll just see that a lot of these old programs, a lot of conditioning that we've been under, just isn't for my best benefit and isn't for the benefit of others around me, especially in the long term. So from a just logical common sense standpoint, and so then going in and unlearning these things and taking on helpful programs, and being able to let those go too when there's other skillful things to pick and take up. Yeah. And yeah, it's this is a huge thing. And then what you're talking about towards the end there, remind me again what you just mentioned. I was just kind of spaced out for a second.
What about the
Yeah.
sacred geometry?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's oh, fine tuning. So, you know,
Yes.
these are things, the subtleties, right? There's so many different subtle energies that are kind of fly under the radar, especially when we don't have access to kind of more still and calm. And then the intent to really look deeply into life and see kind of these subtleties, and some of the little things can make a huge difference in life too. So yes, I think that was really interesting. So who else do you channeling? And then I was just one of the things I'm put off by this is because we don't. From my understanding, I'm not saying this is always a factor, but when we allow some other thing to come into the body and take over the body in order to have a message come through, we do, I mean, the discernment skills I feel are needed to discern who that we're working with, because not a lot of these beings have our best interest in mind, and they're deceptive and can cloak and appear as other things as well. So have you ever, I don't know if you've your thoughts and feelings on that, and the discernment needed to do that. Yeah.
I mean, when I learned to channel, and it's really channeling for me is like automatic. It's like writing. I just get the thoughts, and they just like I mean, I used to journal a lot, but it's easier for me just to use my laptop and just type blind. That's far quicker for me. But when I learned to channel, I was in the States, and it was 2016. I was in St. Petersburg, Florida, and I was trying to get away from someone. I moved home. I sold my home to get away from this person who lived like two doors down. He was my ex, couldn't let me go. And it was insane, an insane situation. I was in continuous fight or flight mode, and I couldn't get out of that. But mea culpa, because I did enable him, because I was always trying to fix broken birds. We do that. We we like to mold people in the likeness of our own image of how we want them to be, but we can't do that. We have to allow people to walk their own path. Look, if we don't sing from the same hymn sheet, then just let it go. But I was paying his bills. I was working 7 days a week. I was paying his bills, and then I was getting his food, his groceries. I was just trying to help him out. And he lost his mom. He was in a state of depression, and he had a reckless, so he couldn't find, he couldn't pay the fine, and it just accumulated and accumulated from there. It was like a snowball effect. But I found this healer, an akashic record healer, and it was really my guides that were like, "You're going to that fair." I'm like, "Nah, I don't want to go." And it's like they kicked me out the door. It was only 5 minutes down the road, and I went. And she's still my mentor now. I currently picked up several weeks ago. I thought, it'd be good for her to mentor me again, the next phase. But at that time, she had a workshop and she helped me walk through past lives. So Akashic record healing. And it's really powerful. So there's a big difference. There's regression therapy, and Akashic record healing. Now, with regression therapy, and I've done it, Josh, it is like you're in a hypnotic state, like you're there, but you're not there, and you go through all the motions, and you can see your lives very, very vividly. And it's not for everyone because I was so drained afterwards. I mean, it took everything out of me. Whereas Akashic record healing, you sit there with the healer and she walks through your past lives. Yes, you can close your eyes, but it's not a hypnotic state. It's very, very different. You don't go deep like regression therapy. And so she walked through certain lives with me, and one of the lives was with my ex. And I mean, yes, he poisoned me in that lifetime, yeah, in like the Middle Ages, because I was very well off. And as he slow poisoned me over several months, it was like he was getting medication to heal me, but actually that wasn't the case. It wasn't medication. It was very interesting because what happened after that is like his energy changed completely. And it was like that karmic residue was gone. And that is was very powerful. But when she had a workshop and I went, how to channel, she did this meditation. She was counting to 1, 2, 3. And then half an hour later, 3, 2, 1. I don't know where I went, Josh, but I was back in the room. And everyone was like had gotten these messages, and they saw the ascended masters or the archangels or the guides. Well, I saw nada, niente, nothing. I was really upset. And I was sitting in a corner, and I was just wiping the tears away really, really quickly. And she had this exercise, and anybody can do this really. But I think my mind was so far gone. So how she started out was she just had a notepad and a pen, and she just said to the universe and to her guides, "I'm ready to receive." Yeah, I'm ready to receive, or I'm open to receive. And that's what she did. And then she started writing. So I thought to myself, right, I'm going to try that at home. And I did. I did it that same night. And it just started to flow for me. And I was just crying tears of joy. I remember it like yesterday. And it was very old English prose. And at the time, yes, you protect yourself, you put yourself in a blue bubble. And whether you call upon your guides, whether you call upon Archangel Michael, that is entirely up to you. But I started to do it every single day. It's like going to the gym, right? You don't get results in one day. And yeah, I've never looked back since. And I didn't know how I was channeling at first until I started using my cards. So whether it was the Ascended Masters cards, the Archangels, the gods and deities, whatever, and I would just shuffle and pick a card. And no, I would not check Google. I would sit there and I would just ask whoever it was if they had a message for me. And then I would just write it down. And that's how you learn. And we are capable of learning anything if we put our mind to it.
Right on. Thanks for sharing. And I'm sorry to hear about your relationship. And
Okay.
I don't know if it's any of this similar, but from past go rounds, I've known that I've taken people on as a project. I like
Yep.
that way of looking, and also that I had something to prove, you know, uh,
Yep.
and so I realized, wait a second, that's probably not the smartest way to start off a relationship,
No, it's not. But we do.
No, it's because we have big hearts and care a lot, and feel that we can honestly be of help. And I just, and yeah, and sometimes I have to just go walk through that process myself to learn kind of the hard way, the first-hand way, and yes, okay. So I don't want to say too much there, but yeah, that's kind of how it is. So, past life recall. So, were you using these processes to recall past lives too, or how do you do that one, if I
So
may
if
ask?
I'm in my first book, I wrote about several past lives and where I'm from because I've seen my planet. I've seen many, many other galactics, not just the usual ones. So the ones from the Syrian star belt, I call them the aquatic star seeds because I don't even know how to describe them. So, but they're all wonderful, and you know, if we think that we're the only species here in the whole universe, in the multiverse, well, think again.
Yeah, some of the Syrians, Syrian A, Syrian B, some of them I think are blue skinned, and it depends on kind of
Yep.
the time periods and things like that, depending on if they're kind of elder strands or yeah. There's all so many different classifications and experiences that people overlaps of similarities and experience of these things. So
If we look at our DNA, for instance, I mean, we are such a diverse bunch. I mean, look at all the different nationalities.
yeah, we're kind of mutts
It
here,
is,
aren't we?
we're,
Yeah.
we're a blend of DNA. It's just fascinating. I mean, all these borders, I don't understand it because I'm sorry. We may look, our outward appearance, our physical appearance may be different, but the light inside each of us is the same. There is no difference. And yet we have all these borders, and it boggles my mind. It is what it
It,
is, but yes.
yeah, no,
I just,
I
yeah.
I have mixed feelings about that too. Ideally, it would be all the borders open at once because, I mean, who is another adult to say to another adult where they can freely travel or not, you
Yeah.
know? But it would really only work, I think, if all the borders were open at once. However, there are people I feel that in places of power and money that use these things to manipulate and to tear down certain cultures and also for financial gain and greed. And so, but yeah, and then take advantage of people who have a really huge heart and an open heart, so maybe, how do you work with what can you, which reminds me, I like to get people's notions around boundaries too. On one hand, if we wall ourselves in too much, we can't really have that vulnerability that allows our heart to open and to deeply connect with others and ourselves and our environment, right? We need that openness and vulnerability to really go deep into reality and connect on a very deep level. But on the other hand, there's people who see that as a weakness, right? That look to exploit that and to not respect our boundaries and to walk all over us. I'm not saying that's the way for everybody. I mean, but do you have any insights on this, and how you
Yeah.
approach this? Yeah.
So I was a walk me over my whole life. It's
Aw.
like, Birgitta, can you do this? Oh, Birgitta, can you do this? Oh, wow, I was so afraid to hurt people. So I would give in. And who would end up getting hurt? Yeah, me. And so why the people pleasing? Because we're afraid to hurt others. We fear what others may think of us. And that's why we do not set boundaries. And I've had to learn to set boundaries because in June, July this year, my other ex came from the States and I didn't know he suffered from mental health issues. And there's nothing wrong with that. But he had about 10 other voices in his head. He was abusive towards me. He was verbally abusive. He bled me dry. And it was just an experience that I needed to go through so that I would shut the door completely because otherwise I would have lived with that what if. So one thing I want to add to that with experience is it's not why is this happening to me, but why is this happening for me? And that's that shift in perspective. People can say, well, that's easier said than done. No, it's just shifting perspective. And so with boundary, and I had to kick him out. I had to kick him out, even though he came back, and I needed to get him away again. Had to get the police involved because I was done. I was drained. My house was destroyed, and I really had to I threw so much out. But that was setting a boundary because for me, it was less than 3 weeks. I had enough. I had enough. I couldn't live like that anymore. And it's the same with people these days. If they drain me too much, boom, I'm done. I just shut the door. I can't be bothered to respond anymore. And I think all my life I've given too much of myself. And many people are starting to realize, have started to realize that in the last 2 years, and they're shifting their mindset. And that's why right now, so many old wounds are resurfacing in so many people, and they wonder why. And they're going frantic in their heads and they break down inside. But remember, it's so important. Self-love is a necessity. Setting boundaries for yourself is self-love. And it's really important. If you cannot build that love within yourself, then how can you ever build the bridge to a beautiful relationship with someone else? That's why it's important.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So,
Even in the scriptures, it says something like, love your neighbor as yourself. But if you don't love
yes.
yourself, how are you going to love your neighbor, to the degree you want to? And I
Yes.
think, this notion that you said at the beginning of that is when I really let it sink in that what other people think about me is none of my business. It was a huge relief to always kind of micromanage other. You can't control what other people think anyway. Like we can't control other people. Yeah, we have no control over other people. And so what we can set and enforce those boundaries like you're talking about. Another thing I think that plays into some of this, if I'm anywhere close, is that our conditioning for drama. There are so much money involved in the Hollywood industry of drama. And we know on one level that it's not real, but we get so absorbed and forget we absorb into these dramas and these great stories and all this intense things going on, dramatic things. But there was another saying that helped me too, is that if I don't respond to drama, drama won't respond to me.
Absolutely.
And you just have to, at one point, break off that bully victim cycle. And yeah, and that's how it stops. And stop wishing for a hero, right? To come in, this bully victim hero archetypes that are so pervasive in society today. Yeah.
Super caped hero at the end of the day. And everyone that's been a part of our lives or is a part of our lives, it's not about hating them or being judgmental or feeling bitter or that anger. That's what I call these labels. And rather forgive yourself and forgive others and just let them go with love. And that's it. And then you rise above. You rise above the drama. There's one thing that's always, and I know it's very cliche, but when you see things from above rather than from below, you get a completely different point of view, a different perspective on life. And when I went skydiving, oh my goodness, I was crazy because I did that in the US and I was scared. I'm scared of heights, and it was like 13,000 feet high. And the instructor said, okay, are you ready to jump? And I thought, sure, good. No, no, but I was stuck to him anyway. So we jumped. But yeah, life from above is so different. And it's the same when you sit in a plane, it's completely different. Everything is so tiny, and we make drama out of everything. And
And
um, and the other thing, when we look back at our lives, I mean, we're never guaranteed tomorrow. Yeah, it's so important not to live with what ifs and just keep steadily working towards whatever inspires you rather than procrastinating and sitting behind your laptop or the TV. I don't even have a TV because to me it tells a vision. That's exactly what it does. It programs. But and being stuck within the social media paradigm, do something with your life, because you're never guaranteed tomorrow, and you just have to be present in the moment and live in the moment and appreciate and again appreciate every single moment and everything that you're going through. And we don't have that appreciation. We don't often have that gratitude. We take everything for granted. We think, oh, we can put it off to tomorrow or the next day.
Yeah, it's so vital, and a lot of times it takes either getting it taken away from us that we then, oh wow, I was taking that for granted, or we actually come into something new and get something way better and different, and like, oh wow, I didn't even realize how I was living my life, kind of, and I can go through hardships, right? And now I have something else enter my life where it's completely different and almost like so much better than I could ever imagined. And now I'm grateful that I've went through kind of the maybe the hardships or the things that were maybe less than I have wanted, but now I'm in a better position. So yeah, it's kind of having that gratitude and gratefulness and not taking things for granted and appreciation. It's kind of opens the way for even better things to come in our lives too. Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Hmm.
we always fear, I mean, fear is, I always say fear is the biggest beta blocker within our minds. And people don't think they deserve abundance, but we all deserve abundance in every single way. So, what I do these days, and it works beautifully, is I I call in the help of the unemployed angels, or as I call them, the self-employed angels. And you just write down, I think I've got 23 requests at the moment, and they've already helped me with some, just like that. And it's powerful because you can call them in, and you can call them in with love and compassion to assist you. And you just write down what you need them for, whether it's for help, for health, or creative projects, anything you need help with, finding a house, anything. And I used it years ago, and I happened to see an interview with Ella Ringrose. She's amazing, and I was like, "Oh my God, what an idiot I am! I used to call upon them, and I've now started doing it again. And these are just simple little ways to to get yourself stuck out of limbo land. But it's also having that faith and trust, not just in them but also yourself. Yeah, we limit ourselves, and because that's what we've been taught to believe, but actually we are boundless, we are infinite, we are creators, and we are manifestors. We just need to weave the energy, because we are energy. We just need to weave that energy properly into the ether, into the universe.
I love this guideline too of anything we ask for things like this, we will want it for everyone else as well. And so
Yes,
that way it doesn't fall into kind of service to self kind of thing too. And because as we know, service to others is, is as far as I'm concerned, what it's all about compared to, you
yeah,
know, just for ourselves as well. And I want to go back to what you said earlier about the different perspective, having a higher perspective. And I don't really feel it's cliche. And my grandfather was actually in World War II, and he volunteered to be a paratrooper in 82nd Airborne, right? So he actually signed up because he could get a little extra money. It's just so crazy. So of course I need to at some point jump out of an airplane.
yeah.
I just can't believe he just did that as a day job. That's pretty into enemy fire, right? So
Well,
it's when I think I have it rough. Sometimes I just think about that. And the other notion of the things that we do in our lives that repeat instead of this perception like, oh, it just happens the same thing over and over again. But what if it's like a spiral staircase where every time it repeats, we have a little
it
bit
is.
higher, perspective, and we can see a little bit more and have
Yes.
access to a bigger and bigger picture each time until we kind of learn the lessons we need to learn.
Yes, and
Yeah.
once we learn the lessons, then the repetition stops. And then you go on to the next
Yes.
level. That's why I always compare it to, like playing a game of Donkey Kong or Mario Brothers or whatever game.
Sure.
You play the baddies in you beat the baddies in your experience in that level, and it
Hmm.
takes you heaven knows how many times, and that's okay. It doesn't matter. And then you level up to the next level.
Very, very good. Yes, indeed. And I love that metaphor, just leveling up. It's a great one in general. So, Brigitte, maybe think about winding it down here.
Mhm.
Tell people about your books again, where they can get your books, and
Yeah.
if you want to say anything about especially about the one coming up here that's going to be released, and events you have going on. Your website. If you want to mention social media, any of that stuff you want to plug, anybody else's work too, and then and take us out on the final word too. But yeah, tell us about your upcoming book though first.
So my first book came out in 2022, Becoming Authentically Me. And that is really about the first part is all about the shifting consciousness. I talk about the governments, I talk about the Anunnaki, I talk about the Atlantean period, the Lemurian period, Second World War. I talk about Hitler and what kind of happened there. It's all channeled. I also work a lot with the Egyptian deities. Very, very strict. Funny though, but strict. And then the second part is all about my life. And I talk about the fact that there is also no death. So, because there isn't, we are energy, we go on, we are eternal. And so the second part is really about my life and everything that I've been through. And it's infused with many of the channeled messages and exercises on how we can overcome to become. And yes, I did two collaboration books, and then my second solo book is called Child of the Sun: En Route to Enlightenment in India. And I stayed at the Art of Living Center, and I did two courses. One was the silence course, and it was, funnily enough, being in service of one another as well, and doing things around the ashram and just helping out. But I learned a lot about meditation at the time, and it's powerful. The breath is very powerful. And we don't breathe properly. We breathe up to here rather than all the way down. And it's really, really important to oxygenate your body because it avoids you living in discomfort, in dis-ease with yourself. Um,
How long were
and
you in silence? Just really quick. How long did
I
you stay in
think it was
silence?
like 2 or 3 days. And then
Yeah.
when it was over, I didn't even realize because, I didn't go to satsang. And one thing I did not like was satsang, where people just sat around and clapped and sang. And I was just like, nah,
Yeah.
man, I need to get out of here. It
Yeah,
wasn't my
I couldn't
thing.
do. I don't think I could do that one. Yeah,
No.
but yeah.
So, yeah. And it's also, I talk about,
Silence, though. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
the
powerful.
silence is
Yes, yes.
amazing. It
Yeah.
really, really helps because you reflect inward. And it did wonders for me at the time. But it's also, I talk about mental health and depression, and there was somebody there that several years later she committed suicide. Beautiful soul.
Sorry.
And I talk about the Panchakarma clinic, and I channeled Krishna, Ganesh, Shiva. So I really show a different side of who they are, and their sense of humor is always, that's how I channel them. And I chuckle, and even Kali, she's a tongue twister. She's funny, but everyone sees them differently, and that's okay. And I just want to get a message out there. I talk about my corporate life as well, and how that, I mean, Josh, I kid you not, I worked an extra 5 months on top of 12 months last year. It nearly killed me. I lost a lot of weight. And it's not because we feel so responsible, and it's just a job. At the end of the day, what, you get hit by a bus and you'll be replaced in the space of a few weeks. People will forget about you. And that's why it's just important to be happy and do the things that you want and break away from the system. I'm aware of the system, but some people aren't. It's like, oh, I have to save up for my future. Oh, no, I want to buy a house. I want to do this. But in the meantime, you're forgetting to live. And that is really, really important. So I really talk about that. And it's all about empowering people and inspiring people. And for me, I just plant that food for thought seed, as I call it, in the hope that people just awaken actually to what life is all about. Yeah, rather than being boxed up in this little, as I call it, terrarium, because terra is earth. Yeah, and we're boxed up in this little terrarium, and we're like little guinea pigs.
Yeah, it's the metaphor I like is the enclosure, you know.
Yes.
So it's a good one too. Yeah, it's pretty wild. This whatever this is, you know. And so tell people how they can get in touch with you then.
Yep.
How and your contact information if you want people to get in touch with you, or just your website and in general stuff like that
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
So when you go to my website, powersoulhealing.com, you'll find my link to my YouTube channel and my Instagram as well.
Cool. Well, with that, may all beings everywhere be empowered to live their highest, most optimal, ideal life for the benefit of themselves and for others, and all beings everywhere. May all beings everywhere realize awakening and be free. Bye.